Yo, welcome to the North Magic YouTube. Today, we're going to be going over something that, for those of you who've played the game for a little bit, probably isn't going to be super helpful. But for those of us that are newer, maybe you just found the channel based off the title, anything like that, kind of a how to set up if you're going to play IRL. So maybe you haven't played in a while because, we're currently in a pandemic and, you just started, or maybe you haven't played ever IRL. And it's kind of like, what exactly do I do? What's the etiquette? So I'm going to go ahead and go over how to set up before an official game. Now, if you're watching this and you're just going to go to local league or something like that, the good habits to have is a general formal, like you do this when you're setting up for a game, but you don't have to at a local league. It is a little more informal. But if you're going to an official tournament, a league challenge, a league cup, a regional, even if it's a stores like, there's cash prizing, it's usually a good idea to follow the general setup and the general procedure of the game in order to, keep things flowing. And some of these are just the actual rules. So a couple things. We have our 60 card deck. Of course, I assume most people have figured that part out. 60 card deck with at least one basic Pokemon in it. You should also have some dice, depending when you're watching this, a GX marker or not. GX are going to rotate pretty soon, but as of right now, they still exist. You need a GX marker. You have some dice. You have a randomizer. The randomizer is a clear-ish dice. It doesn't have to be literally clear. Like I do have one that is clear here, but this one is opaque. You can see through it. That is our quote unquote coin, which is going to be a big deal because you do have to flip at least one coin every single game. I have a nice little deck box here from Ultra Pro. They don't sponsor me. If they want to sponsor me, they can, but I like it because with the deck in the top, with the dice in the bottom, it's nice, easy, it's all together, but you do want to bring your own dice. I occasionally play people who don't have dice, and it's technically fine. Your opponent will probably have them, but you have to ask every single game, hey, can I borrow some damage counters? Hey, can I borrow some damage counters? Hey, can I borrow? Just bring your own dice. Dice are incredibly cheap. These are, in fact, these are the ones that I bought originally. I'm pretty sure I went to Walgreens or Bartell's or, a drugstore like that and bought a pack of dice from the toy section. It works. They have big old numbers on them. You do not have to go out and buy the fancy ones. You can if you want to. There are dice that have the very large numbers on them from like TC Evolutions or the official Pokemon ones or stuff like that. And, they have like 180, 60, stuff like that. These work fine. 6 for 60 damage, a 1 for 10 damage. Beautiful. Good to go. Plenty of damage counters unless you're playing in spread deck. So we sit down at a table. You just start shuffling your deck. That's the norm. You're going to shuffle quite a bit. You can pile shuffle if you want to. I'm not a huge fan of it. If you were watching this and you're like, ooh, I'm not a great shuffler, practice. I will, at work, during meetings, I will bring a deck of cards and just sit there and shuffle it. Part of it is because it's a fidget toy for me. The other part is it made me get significantly better at shuffling. The last thing you want is when you are playing the game, start shuffling, and you either have to go really slow in a best of 3, or, if you're playing a slower deck or something like that, it can get very annoying. And of course, if you're shuffling and you miss and some of the cards fly off, that's not good for multiple reasons. One, your opponent can see what deck you're playing, they can see some of your cards. And number 2, you're wasting time, which is also not super great. Normally, time isn't an issue, but you never want to do unnecessary actions to make time an issue. So practice shuffling. You're always going to shuffle first before drawing cards, anything like that. You're going to present your deck to your opponent for a cut. They can do one of 3 things. Tap it. You're good to go. I trust you. Cut it. Then grab anywhere in here. Put them on top of each other. They can also do a 3-pile cut. Totally fine. Or they can shuffle the deck. They can grab your deck and be like, we're going to go ahead and shuffle. If they shuffle your deck, you are allowed to then cut your deck. It's entirely up to you. So again, you're going to present your deck to your opponent. They should present their deck to you as well. And you have the same 3 options. Tap, cut, or shuffle their deck. I will have a video in the future about how to prevent cheating against you, so you don't have to worry too much about that. The majority of players are completely honest. We're not in the game to make tons and tons of money. We're in the game to have fun. We're in the game to, try this little puzzle of how can I beat my opponent. So most people won't be cheating. But in the future, we'll have a video for how to prevent that. And one of the ways to do that is alternate between cut, tap, and shuffle your opponent's deck. So anyway, you do that. Sweet. Before drawing your cards, one of you is going to flip. Now, there are usually two types of Pokemon players. There's going to be Pokemon players who always go for the coin. You can do this before even presenting your deck. You can do this before doing anything. You can do this before shuffling. As soon as you sit down, there are some people who will grab their coin, their dice, their randomizer, and they will say heads or tails. Other people who will never, ever, ever flip unless their opponent's not doing it and they're at the point where they have to. You can kind of decide if you're someone like, I want to flip, sweet. If you want to wait for your opponent to do it every game, that's also totally fine. So, person with the coin always says heads or tails. On the dice, if you're not aware, evens are heads, odds are tails. Always. So you say heads or tails, they say heads. It is heads. Your opponent gets to choose if they want to go first or second. You have to accept their fate. Totally fine. No issue there. Now, you shuffled your deck, cut it. We know who's going first. My opponent's going first. Totally cool. Now we can draw our cards. That's a big deal. Some of this is like informal. This is good, practice, things like that. Some of this is official TPCI rules. That is one of them. You always figure who's going to go first or second before drawing your 7-card hand. Now, you can draw it a couple ways. You can fan out from the top. A bit sketchy. You don't want to draw extra cards. I'm always a fan of grab the deck and count out 7 cards. That way you don't draw any extras. You don't accidentally do anything like that. I always do 4 and 3. It doesn't actually matter. You can go 7 across, anything like that. Like I said, you can also just fan out and draw 7 cards from the top. Go, what is that? 4, 7. Sure, that's totally fine too. Not a huge fan of it because usually laying cards on the bottom, like I said, is good because you always draw the exact amount you need to. There are penalties that come later on in the game usually. If you draw an extra card, you're giving your opponent free prizes. Ooh, that's not good. That has lost me games before where you accidentally draw extra cards, and so now I'm always on caution. You look at your hand. Conveniently, I have a mulligan, which is good because I wanted to go over this. Now, if I have a mulligan, I'm not going to show it to my opponent yet. I'm just going to say I have a mulligan. They're going to say, okay, they're going to put down their basic Pokemon. The reason for that is I do not want to give them any extra information. I could show it to them immediately. There is no rule against it, but just from a good competitive standpoint, I'm just going to say, I have a mulligan. They say, okay. They have to put their Pokemon down. They lay out their prizes. Then I show them my hand. I'm usually someone who will just lay it out on the table. That way they can see it. It's a good idea if your opponent has a mulligan, look at their hand, actually look at their hand so you get an idea. Are they playing any cool techs? What deck are they actually playing? Anything like that. Like this one. Depending when you're watching this deck might be out of date, but you can look at it and be like, I'm pretty sure this is Spiritomb, Hiding Dark Energies, Level Ball, Scoop Up Net, Switch, Rod. That's probably what this deck is. So my opponent just learned. So then you have a mulligan. You're going to shuffle a couple times. And mulligans will happen. Sometimes it'll happen a lot of times. That's totally fine. PTCGO, if you play online, does this significantly faster than IRL will. So give it a couple good shuffles. No reason not to. Offer it to your opponent. Would you like to cut? They cut, they tap, they shuffle, whatever they want. And then I'm going to draw 7 more cards. Again, I lay them out. You do not have to. And then we're going to see. Sick. We have basic Pokemon. I'm not going to worry about which one to start. It's a Crobat and a Dene, so it's not great. We're going to go ahead and shove the Crobat in the active, put it face down. Now, obviously, I'm not going to bench the Dedenne, but a good word of advice is you typically don't want to bench more than 1 Pokemon ever. If you're going first, there's no reason to ever put another Pokemon down. There's absolutely nothing that can happen to your hand to disrupt it if you're going first. So if you're going first, never, ever, ever put a second Pokemon down. There's literally no reason not to. You can just shove it down later. If you're going second, sometimes with reset stamps still in the format, it might make a little sense to put a second Pokemon down if it's really important, but with Escape Rope also in format, it can be a bit sketchy because if this is your best starter, you don't want to shove something else on the bench. So usually you just put 1 Pokemon down and you're good to go. Lay out your prizes. That's a big one. If you forget to lay out your prizes and the game starts, That's a pretty big penalty and or a game loss, depending how far into the game you are. Laying out your prizes. I've seen people do it a lot of different ways. I think there's only 2 correct ways, really. You can go 2, 2, 2. So you have 2 prizes, 2 prizes, 2 prizes. You can also go 3 and 3. I've seen some people where they will lay them out in ways that take up a ton of room. Just so absurd. But technically, yes, you could do this. Look how much room that takes up compared to the way we had done it before, where they're slightly overlapping with each other. Or the same way where it's kind of looks like PTCGO does it. Look, you can do this if you really want to, but from a board management perspective, I highly suggest not doing it. It gets really messy really fast, and this video is partially on etiquette, not just a how-to. Having a nice clean board is a pretty big deal for both players. It makes it so much easier to look at, not annoy your opponent, all that good stuff. Then you say, good luck or something like that, whatever you want to say to your opponent, flip it over, and the game begins. Beautiful. So general setup advice, again, this is what we're focusing on. We're not going to focus on the gameplay. If you want, I do have a video on prize checking on IRL that I put out a couple weeks ago. I'll have a link somewhere over here. I don't know how it shows up on YouTube. I'm still not that good at YouTube yet. But general thing, you sit down, just start shuffling, wait for your opponent to show up. Maybe they're there. Have some small talk. It's a social game, right? That's one of the reasons we like to play IRL and not online. Flip the coin before drawing your opening hand. Once you draw your opening hand, you're going to put down your basic Pokemon, then put down your prizes. Make sure, that's another one. I didn't stress that one, but always put down the Pokemon before putting down your prizes. That is actually a very big deal, and that's another one that can get you a penalty in an official event if the judge so decides to dole out a penalty on that day. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said, it's just a general, how do you actually set up when you're playing the game? You can go back and rewatch if you need. Always throw it on 1.5 times speed or something like that just to get a refresher. But good luck when you go to an IRL event. They are significantly fun. I am a competitive person, so I always kind of assume that everyone else enjoys a competitive game, but I know it can be a little bit stressful. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what to expect when you're actually showing up to one of the events, and just removes one of those stresses so you can focus on playing the game, meeting new people, and all that other good stuff. Because again, we're all there for fun. Sometimes winning, very often winning, but also to meet people, to have fun. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that other stuff. If you have other ideas for IRL things, I've got the overhead cam now. It's not great, but it does the job. I am super happy to go over those because now certain places are opening up, and the actual physical card game is new to a lot of people, or a lot of people who had barely played are going to get back into it, and we might need some refreshers on how do I do things IRL because I've been playing PTCGO for so long. So let me know if you have any other ideas, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out.